Hey everyone, and welcome back to KB Decor Crafts. Today I'm going to be showing you one of my favorite holiday DIYs that I've made this season. You would never know by looking at them that they were made from Dollar Tree cutting boards. This entire project was so inexpensive and easy to make, and I'm excited to show you just how I did that. Now let's get started. The Dollar Tree carries these white cutting boards, and they also have them in red, which I think would look just as cute doing the same DIY. Now you could find any wooden cutout letters. I just chose the ones from the Target dollar spot that already spelled out the word joy. I decided to stain my letters with the Waverly Wax Antique paint by brushing on some of the paint and then wiping it off with paper towel. Now you could choose to leave on the paint, you don't have to wipe it off, but I feel like it just gives it too much of a darker look, so I just decided to wipe off the excess color. And then I just repeated the same steps for all three letters. I used some jute string to wrap around the handles of my cutting boards. The best way I found to do this was to glue down the beginning of the jute string, try to wrap it around and maybe add a couple spots of glue here and there, but I just kept wrapping until I was satisfied, and then I glued on the rest on the back part of the handle. I find that it looks best to snip off any excess pieces that you find on the jute string to make it look neater. I then repeated the same steps for the other two cutting boards. I was lucky enough to find this fabric square at the Dollar Tree. Walmart does also carry the same kind of fabric squares, also other type of Christmas prints, for about $1.98. So if you can't find it at a Dollar Tree, I would definitely check out Walmart. But here I'm just quickly cutting out a piece that I feel like would fit around this cutting board. You want to make sure to stretch out the fabric and to be able to kind of get the groove of the inner part of the cutting board, and that's where I'll actually be adding the fabric. So I grabbed a Sharpie or a marker and flipped it upside down to be able to create my markings. After creating my markings, I went ahead and cut the piece out. You're going to then use the same piece to be able to trace out two more rectangles for the other two cutting boards. Just remember to keep the fabric nice and taut, so that way you're going to get the same exact measurement of what you need for the other two cutting boards. Now, using some Mod Podge, you're going to go ahead and put some onto the cutting board. I find that using a paintbrush works best for me. I spread it all around evenly, and then I add on my piece of fabric. Now make sure to spread it out as evenly as possible, fitting into the groove of the inner part of the cutting board. To make sure my fabric wasn't going to be lifting, I added some more Mod Podge on top and made sure to spread a thin layer all around it. I then of course did the same thing to the other two cutting boards. Now don't worry if you think you're going to have a white cast over your entire fabric. Mod Podge actually dries up clear. I'm using this red berry garland that I found at Dollar Tree to create a border around my cutting board. Now, trying to glue this down was a little difficult. I'm not sure if it was the fabric or the Mod Podge or just the material, like waxy cover that the cutting boards had, that the hot glue just was not working for me. But I kept having to go back and making sure to at least get a little bit onto the fabric, and that's what I found stayed on best. The best part about this garland is that it has a wire inside, so it's very flexible and it's going to hold its shape. Once the Mod Podge is completely dry and so are your letters, you can go ahead and add on the letters to the boards. Now these already had like a stickiness on the back to be able to adhere with. I felt that they weren't holding very well for me, so I eventually used some adhesive spray. I used the Elmer brand and that worked perfectly for me. You also want to make sure to add something heavy on top while it's drying to make sure that it sticks down good. I wanted to add some little bows to the tops of the cutting board, so I used this burlap ribbon that I found at Dollar Tree to create one bow, and I was going to add a different color on top. Now for this bow, you want to make sure that you're cutting out enough that you're going to have enough to create a loop, because you're going to be gluing that down later. And now here you'll see me put a whole line of glue down at the end of the ribbon, but what I would recommend is just 2 dabs on the 2 corners. That way it won't make it so difficult when you're going to pinch this later to create your bow. I definitely learned the hard way with these bows, so do as I say and not as I do. I found this ribbon set at Walmart for $8.98, which I thought was a great deal. And for this project, I'm actually only using the red side, so I just wanted to add a pop of color onto my bow using the red ribbon. For this bow, I wanted to make sure it was going to be a little bit smaller than the burlap bow, so that measured out to about 2.5 inches. Now when it comes to putting your bows together, you want to make sure to pinch in the center of the first bow, holding that and then adding the other color on top, but also pinching in the middle as well. Now the glue did make it a little difficult for me to pinch in, but you could also use a needle and thread just to add a little bit of a cinch on the bows too. Now holding the center of the bows together, make sure to wrap around a piece of jute string and hold it down as tightly as you can and make a knot. And then you just want to adjust your bows, making sure that they're nice and even. Now I wanted to use these little pine cones for the center of my bows. I got these at Walmart and they're actually little ornaments, so I just cut off the string that it comes with and whatever little piece of the end of the pine cone off. That way I'll be able to glue it on better. Using some white chalk paint and a small paintbrush, I just dabbed on some paint all around the pine cone to create the snow effect. Of course, then doing the same thing to 2 other pine cones. And now I just hot glue my little bow onto the cutting board just right underneath the jute string. Now I used a pencil and eventually switched to the end of my paintbrush to try to fluff up my bow a little better. And then I just hot glue my pine cone to the center of the bow. And you're all done. Just repeat the same steps for the 2 other cutting boards. I absolutely love how these came out. This is my favorite thing to see in my kitchen now. I've never decorated my kitchen for a holiday before, but I'm really enjoying doing it this year. Let me know down below if you decorate your kitchen for every holiday. I really hope you guys enjoyed this craft as much as I enjoyed making it. Thank you guys so much for watching and for always being so supportive. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video.